Well, howdy ho, neighbors. So today, going for a quick drive and talking about the GT3RS that I test drove recently. It's a buddy of mine's car, and we decided to swap cars and drive it for a little bit. And I wanted to give you my thoughts on what I thought about the car. All right, so without further ado, let's get going. All right, so out for another drive. Today I'm going to talk about 992.1 GT3RS. So I think it was like last week or a couple weekends ago, a friend and I swapped cars, and his car was just broken in, and he let me drive it, and never driven that particular car before. Obviously was very excited to drive it, and just wanted to share my thoughts about that car. Handling, power, sound, overall feel, interior, and the fun factor, which is very important. All right, so the handling. As you guys know, the new GT3 has double wishbone suspension all around. I mean, it's not like the the newest and latest technology. It's been around for decades, but the prior gen GT3s had multi-link or McPherson suspension, and basically the double wishbone suspension allows you to do a pull here. The double wishbone suspension allows the wheels or the tires to maintain its camber as it turns. And so that's the first thing I felt when I drove the car. Had a lot tighter front end feel. I mean, it did feel like a go-kart, but I will say it felt like a bigger go-kart. So I owned the 992 Carrera S before, and I sold that prior to this car because I just felt that it was too big. But anyway, that's the immediate thing I've noticed. Obviously, being a GT3RS, the handling was awesome. I mean, I only drove it around the neighborhood. I mean, obviously it's a GT3RS. I can't say it's completely numb, but it was numb in the sense that it was too perfect. I mean, it's built for the track, and you can feel it. It's like it's egging you on to go faster, taking 1.5 plus G corners. So that's the immediate thing I noticed in the handling. The power, very linear, felt more power in this car, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like a turbocharger car feel. It didn't feel like my old 992 Carrera S, which had the twin turbocharged 3.0 liter. That car obviously had more torque, probably closer to 100 foot-pounds of more torque, but the top end on that GT3RS was awesome. So in terms of the power delivery, it's extremely linear, as it should. But again, I can't justify driving that car around on the street because you would have to redline it or get close to the upper RPM to have a bit of fun. So I felt that this car for some reason I felt that it had a little bit more torque down low, or the delivery of the torque came on sooner, I should say, than the GT3RS. So that's nice about this car. The engine noise, obviously the GT3RS definitely wins. But you know, I wouldn't say like night and day difference compared to this car with exhaust. But you know, the GT3RS that my friend had also had aftermarket exhaust. I think it was like I think he says the R1 brand, but I think it's essentially a straight pipe, no muffler. It's basically muffler delete. So on the outside, it felt, you know, it was loud, but surprisingly, inside the car, it was about perfect. He still has the stock catalytic converter. That helps to muffle the sound a little bit. That sounded pretty good. I think if it was my car, I'd leave it like that. I wouldn't want it to be any louder. And I'll throw on some clips of that car and me test driving it. Yeah, so that was pretty nice. So the steering feel, I didn't have, you know, much time I didn't spend a lot of time with that car to really gauge the steering wheel, so I could just tell you what I felt immediately. And I'll tell you that it wasn't, again, night and day difference compared to this car in terms of the steering feel. It was a little bit heavier. But you know, I probably didn't do any justice because I mean, it's got like Cup 2, maybe it had Cup 2 tires, I'm not sure. But you know, I wasn't taking it around the corner at high speeds or anything like that, but just, you know, driving around town, I didn't really notice a big difference. So, and that's kind of to be expected. You know, this car and that car has both E-Pass. But I mean, the steering is a lot sharper though, obviously. The lower control arms are solids on the GT3RS. The spring rate coilovers, that's double, triple the spring rate than this car. So obviously, as it should, the steering felt sharper. The interior, the 992, unfortunately, they were plagued with the poor quality of interior. Yeah, so the interior 992, for some reason, the center console area, there's these rattles. I was able to get rid of 90% of it when I owned it. And I had the Carrera S, but definitely heard it on my friend's car. Still there. So the build quality, I would say, is about the same as this car, maybe less than this car. But overall, like the fun factor, I enjoyed like reading the heck out of it. The shifts are just amazing. It's just lightning speed shifts, you know, on the PDK. But I can't justify driving that thing around the street and not take it to the track. I mean, obviously that car was built for the track, and then sometimes on the street, and that's the way it should be. But I know most of these guys drive it mostly on the street and a few times on the track, and some don't even drive it on the track. I know my buddy intends to maybe take it on the track later, as he should. But I felt like you're not gonna get the fun factor until you drive it on the track. Around the neighborhood, I still said this car is more fun to drive, believe it or not. One, because a big factor is because this car is a manual or has a manual transmission, but also the torque comes on sooner. This car does feel a little lighter. I think that's because of the mid-engine arrangement. I think the GT3RS in this car weighs about the same. This car maybe 100 pounds lighter. I'm not sure. I'd have to weigh it. But I think the GT3RS weighs something like 3,100 pounds, and this one's right at about 3,000 with the modifications I've done. So I've got the lightweight anti-gravity battery, Inconel exhaust. So that should, save about 80 pounds or so. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if I had the money, I would love to own one. But I will probably, if I had that money, I would probably get the GT3 Touring with the 6-speed. Obviously, I would definitely, if I can get one, the ST is the one I get, but that's impossible to get. So anyway, so those are my thoughts. I wasn't like super duper impressed. I know it might disappoint my friend, but again, I did not do it any justice. I didn't drive on the track. So if I drove this car and that car on the track, I am 110% sure that I would have a hell of a lot more fun on the GT3RS than this car. But I was just driving it for 5-10 minutes on the neighborhood. So so that was my comparison, real world comparison of it. My I think the perfect Porsche spec Porsche car for the street and occasionally on the track would be a GT4RS with a 6-speed manual. I wish Porsche would have done that, but I know they probably would have stolen some sales from the GT3 if they did that. But man, that would be an awesome spec. If you can do that, if they did that. Because I think the Cayman still feels like it feels lighter just because of the mid-engine arrangement. Turn inch, sharper. Rotation's good. So with a GT3 motor and a 6-speed, man, that will be so much fun. So that's my thought. My thought on the GT3RS. Comment below your thoughts if you ever driven one. But a huge congrats to my friend. I'm not, I didn't want to make this video to bash his car. Again, I'm not bashing. I'm just telling you what I felt for a very short period of time. But definitely thank him for letting me drive his car, and I hope to drive his car more, and I hope to share more of my thoughts after I've driven it more. I mean, the car didn't have much miles on it either. I know after a couple thousand miles, the tires, you get more feel out of those too. So, there's that. But anyway, I'm rambling on here. But hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. And have a great day. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.